गीत नया गाथा, गीत नया गाता हूँ, टूटे हुए तारों से फूटे वासंती स्वर, पत्थर की छाती में उगाया नव अंकुर, झरे सब पीले पात, कोयल की कुहुक रात, प्राची में अरुणिमा की रेत देख पाता हूँ, गीत नया गाता। टूटे हुए सपने की सुने कौन किसकी, अंतर को चीर व्यथा पलकों पर ठिठकी, हार नहीं मानूंगा रार नहीं ठानूंगा, काल के कपाल पर लिखता जाता हूँ, गीत नया गाता।
The nation did an emotional farewell to one of its favorite sons. Thousands and thousands of people gather for the funeral procession, an emotional moment that really has left many people sitting back thinking about what Atal Bihari Vajpayee really meant to all of us. That cycle of destruction in Kerala continuing to mount. Nearly water from 80 dams likely to be released. The Prime Minister going out there. We will get to more on the situation in Kerala and also in neighboring Karnataka, where also there is considerable destruction and rainfall continuing. But first, the nation's farewell to Atal Bihari Vajpayee. A dream has been shattered, a song silenced, a flame has vanished in the infinite. It was a dream of a world without fear and without hunger. Death is certain, the body is ephemeral. Bharat Mata is stricken with grief today. She's lost her favorite prince. Humanity is sad today. It has lost its devotee. Peace is restless today. Its protectors no more. The downtrodden have lost their refuge. The common man has lost the light in his eyes. The curtain has come down. The leading actor on the stage of the world displayed his final role and taken the bow. That was, of course, Atal Bihari Vajpayee's tribute to Jawaharlal Nehru when he passed away. But today, it might well be what the nation is feeling and saying to Atal Bihari Vajpayee himself. Day today where people from across the political spectrum gathered at Smriti Sthal. Thousands and thousands march in that funeral procession. Leaders from across all political parties were gathered and united in grief. We saw the Congress party putting up hoardings to Atal Bihari Vajpayee in Mumbai. Congress leaders bowing in grief in front of Atal Bihari Vajpayee's body as it lay at his residence. A day of mourning, and today we are gathered by some people who knew him really well, who are going to talk to us and share some of their memories, and perhaps also the learnings that all of us should take forward. The legacy that Atal Bihari Vajpayee leaves, and the lessons that all of us, including our politicians, should take from his life. Farooq Abdullah, it's a pleasure to have you with us here in the studio after a long time. Dinesh Trivedi joining us as well. Sudhindra Kulkarni, I knew him very well. Nalini Singh, it's great to have you with us. Pawan Verma joining us as well on a line. And in a short while from now, we're going to be joined by Senior Minister Nitin Gadkari, who's going to be talking to us about the considerable time that he spent, that he observed Atal Bihari Vajpayee growing up in the sun, growing up as a BJP worker, what Atal Bihari Vajpayee meant to him. So Nitin Gadkari is going to be joining us in a short while. And then, as I said, we are going to spend some time looking at Kerala itself. Farooq Abdullah, when you see a procession like that, some are calling it unprecedented, a funeral like that, with that many thousands of people, and of course, Prime Minister Narendra Modi walking along for 4 kilometers, so did Amit Shah. I'm sure it must have given lots of headaches and some nightmares to the security personnel out there. But that outpouring of emotion that we saw today, what do you think accounts for it?
I think it was the love that people had for him. They knew that this man thought of them, poor, the downtrodden, the ill, who he wanted to get them out of this. He wanted to bring peace to this nation so that we could all live together. Every one of us, whether you're from north, south, east, west, what language you spoke, what color you had, what food you ate, he meant a lot to every one of us. To every single Indian who didn't belong to his party, realize that he meant good for India. He sacrificed himself for India. And that was one of the biggest things. And I don't think anybody who has known him can ever forget this great man.
Farooq Sahib, if you think about it, the voice of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, which so many of us grew up listening to, it is a voice that echoes his speeches, his poems, the rhetoric he used to use, his style of oratory. Many people grew up with that. But that voice has been silenced now, not just after he retired from politics in 2015. He fell sick. He's been in a really poor health for a long period of time. There were many young people today marching who may have never known of him, never heard of his speech, he's not been in public life for 10 years. To that extent, does it surprise you that so many people came out and so many youngsters on the road?
I don't think it surprises me. Because even if he wasn't in 10 years in the public life, they've heard of him. They've seen him on your televisions, his speeches, his manner of speaking. I don't think anybody can beat him in Hindi. He could floor anyone with his intellect because it came from here. He meant every word that he put out from his mouth. That is what people love him for, and that is why the young generation want leaders like him.
Young people want leaders like him. Dinesh Trivedi, would you agree with that? Because that style of politics is not necessarily in fashion now. An era where you would smile at each other, where you would talk in a cordial term with each other, where Jawaharlal Nehru would say he needs to be mentored, where he will say the words that I was just using for Jawaharlal Nehru. It seems almost something which is of an era of the past.
Vikram, it only goes to show that his dream can never be shattered, his voice can never be silenced. And this exactly what it is that today India wants leaders like Atal Bihari Vajpayee. I have no hesitation in saying and accepting that we collectively are like pygmies. And this is a time, I was just talking to Mr. Kulkarni, that he has seen it all. And now it is our duty, all of us who are sitting here and outside, to really take this value forward. And if you talk about what is Indianness, and if you would, what is Hindutva, that is Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Nobody will ever disagree. That's what the man is, and that's why all love and affection. And like Farooq ji said, his जवाब like से कि सरस्वती का वास था. वो सरस्वती का वास इसीलिए था कि सब दिल से आता था. He loved life, he loved the country, and I say not only India, across the borders, everywhere, people feel that they have lost somebody who's their own. And that's what Atal Bihari Vajpayee is all about, and we have to carry on the legacy. If we want to pay homage or tribute, by words it's just not sufficient. We have to put this value forward.
All right. Just wanted to ask you before I come to the others, Farooq Sahib, we've already seen from some of the statements coming from Pakistan, where obviously there seems to be, he really tried, and God knows he had a really tough time. He tried Lahore, he was repaid by Kargil, he tried again repaid by betrayal, and he tried a third time. So he kept on trying. But what is the sort of reaction that you'll be hearing about in Jammu and Kashmir, in the Kashmir Valley?
I think everyone in that state misses him today, because he meant it. Jamhuriyat, Kashmiriyat, Insaniyat. And it came from here.
And given a little bit more time, he may be able to solve
I am sure his efforts, first Prime Minister to really go and tell them from Nishani-Pakistan that I represent India, 1.2 billion people, and I have come to tell you, we accept Pakistan as a nation, and we want to live with you in friendship. We want to grow with you in a new future. No Prime Minister ever has said that. And he meant it. When he went, so many people tried to dissuade him and say, don't go. He said, no, I have to go.
Surendra Kulkarni, you saw many of those arguments and battles at close hand. He was never scared of taking the tough decisions that needed to be taken, whether it was Pokhran. He knew what reaction there would be in the rest of the world. Still went ahead and did it. Going to Pakistan, he knew it would be opposed within his own party, within people who would say, accuse him of, what are you doing? Are you selling out? Are you not selling out? He knew that that would happen. He still went in and did it. Privatization, telecom, number of times when he went ahead and did things that he knew would be unpopular, but he did it because he thought they needed to be done. I mean, in addition to all that we talk about of reaching out across the fence, that's something else that perhaps people need to keep in mind.
Because he was a leader of very firm convictions, whether it was India's economic development and the path-breaking initiatives that he began during the 6 years that he was Prime Minister, or reaching out to Pakistan, very sincere and persistent efforts to bring peace, normalcy in Kashmir, all stemmed from his very firm conviction and that he had a sense of responsibility that the people have reposed faith in me and I must make a difference. So I want to give one example, Vikram, that reconciliation was a kind of a running theme in his politics. I'll give you two examples. One is Farooq Saab is sitting here. Anyone who knows the history of the Bharatiya Jansangh, the relations between Bharatiya Jansangh and the founder of Bharatiya Jansangh, that is S.P. Mukherjee and Sheikh Abdullah Saab, very strained. But what did he do when he became Prime Minister? He reached out to National Conference, he reached out to Farooq Abdullah Saab, made Farooq Abdullah Saab the minister, and subsequently even Omar Abdullah became minister. He even reached out to PDP, the other party in Kashmir, all because he believed in reconciliation. I'll give one more very example which is contemporary. You know, we have today seen devastating floods in Kerala. There was devastating earthquake in Kutch, in Gujarat. What was his response? He formed a national task force to formulate a new national disaster management authority. And he asked Sharad Pawar to head it. Why Sharad Pawar? Of course, Sharad Pawar was a political opponent. But Sharad Pawar, as Chief Minister of Maharashtra, had done remarkable work in bringing in rehabilitation relief at the time of Latur earthquake. So he had this ability to reach out to his political opponents.
Reach out across the political divide is one of the, I mean, today, on a day when we have said farewell to Atal Bihari Vajpayee, it's worth keeping these one or two things in mind. And there will be a time to look at the politics behind it and what's going to happen to his legacy and who's going to do what with it and the comparisons between him and the present Prime Minister. All of that will happen. Maybe today is not the day. Maybe we can do it tomorrow. We probably will do it tomorrow. But just as a journalist, when you're looking at the crowds that you see and you're looking at the emotions that were on there. And actually, a couple of pictures perhaps that we could show you of a Congress hoarding in Mumbai on Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Pictures of Jyotiraditya Scindia. Look at that history between Atal Bihari Vajpayee and the Scindia family. He used to work for the Scindia family. Then after that, Madhura Scindia defeats him. Jyotiraditya Scindia goes there, kneels in respect in front of his body last night. We just show you some of those pictures, but what would you make of some of them? There you have it. That's the hoarding that you can see. There's the Congress party hoarding there in Mumbai for Atal Bihari Vajpayee. And we maybe just show you the picture of Jyotiraditya Scindia yesterday evening. Yeah, Nalini.
You know, Vikram, I would say that this is India. When I see that poster, this is India. When I saw, and you're asking me as a journalist, when I saw the numbers of dark heads on our roads today in Delhi, these were very young people.
That's the picture of Jyotiraditya Scindia. I mean, look at that as a gesture of respect. They've been political rivals their entire life. Jyotiraditya Scindia was probably born thinking of Bihari Vajpayee as probably the major political rival from Gwalior. But to have that sort of a genuine heartfelt emotion for Vajpayee, it says a lot, and it says something about an era of politics that seems to have vanished. Let's hope it comes back someday.
You know, I also have been fearing, everybody fears that it's vanished. But today when I saw the roads, and I saw the young people, the really, really young people, it occurred to me that actually these people are here for somebody who has not spoken a word for 12 years. So is his silence so eloquent that it reached out? Or did he stand for something which they are now looking at? And I got two propositions that I'll give you. One of them is that that people are, a word that I think Sudhir has used, people are looking for conciliation. They are looking for no bitterness or very little bitterness. They're also looking for don't harm individuals. Don't harm at the individual level. So understand.
At the risk of sounding
that sounds romantic.
Cynical.
Yeah.
At the risk of sounding cynical, is it that's what sitting around this table we're all looking for, that's what people want, or is it genuinely? Because sometimes it seems it's not. If you get onto social media, that's not what it sounds as the people want. When you're looking at WhatsApp forwards, it doesn't sound as if that's what people want. So to that extent, if Atal Bihari Vajpayee over the last 8 to 9 years had been observing, and he wasn't the best of healthy paths, wasn't able to observe. If he had been observing a lot of what is going on these days, not just in politics, but on TV channels, on social media, maybe he would have been disappointed as to what state the country is coming.
Of course. But I would say, just to continue with that, why did I think like this? It sounds terribly romantic for a journalist to be thinking on these lines. But, when Vajpayee ji left government in 2004, when he was defeated, the parents of these children, of the youth that was on the roads, those parents had tasted what 8% growth is, what below 4% inflation is, what having the foreign exchange reserves at record levels for that time, what those are. There was really a sense of well-being, is what I gather from these people when they were being interviewed. Some of them said, माँ ने कहा कि जाओ और माँ ले जाती थी. So that means that there is something about Vajpayee ji who infused people with a sense of well-being and with a sense of this, just something that we used to hold dear, which is decency, at least behavior, which is one where you're not at each other's throats. But you're absolutely right. What has happened in the last 10 years or 10 years, Vajpayee ji would be aghast at how we are at each other's throats.
Pawan Verma, we are going to actually keep playing for you also some of the comments that Atal Bihari Vajpayee made, including interviews. There were a series of interviews that he'd given right here, which we will be playing for you as we go along. But Pawan Verma, we're all sort of trying to understand not just the crowds, because that's almost like, but the number of young people who are there in the crowds, people who would have never heard Atal Bihari Vajpayee speaking because he's been silent for the last 10 to 12 years. Is it curiosity? Is it many of them, by the way, were queuing up last night when I'd gone to the residence last night. Young people, some of them 18 to 24. I asked them whether they were from the BJP. They said, we've just come to pay our respects to him. Lining up for half a kilometer. What was that? Was that because they were paying respects to a senior statesman whom they've heard so much about? Is it, as some around this table are saying, a yearning for a slightly different sort of discourse that they've heard about and are perhaps hoping will come back?
Well, Vikram, I think you used the word. And even though it may not be articulated with exactitude or clarity in public life, but there is a yearning for a statesman. I want to say this because there is no other way to explain Atalji's continued popularity and, if I may emphasize, relevance. Atalji was a statesman. He was the great synthesizer. He may have, and that is not something that we are discussing today, joined the RSS at the age of 15, become a pracharak at the age of 23. But whatever that background, and I'm not saying that necessarily is something that was a burden. All I'm saying is that he transcended his political framework to rise above it and seek a transcendental mean for the country. It was, even on communalism, it was anathema to him in many ways. And apart from that, he was a coalition builder. He had a human touch with people. He could make the most trenchant critic disarm him either by an embrace or his spontaneous laughter or by a human touch, the skill of a coalition builder. Thirdly, and I say this again, it's not only because of his oratorial skills, which were tremendous, as Farooq Sahib was saying. It was his passionate commitment to democracy. He was a Democrat par excellence. And lastly, I believe he was a gentleman. He was a good human being. I came to know him not only as a diplomat because he was my foreign minister and then later as prime minister, but through his poetry. And just now you were mentioning about Pakistan. I don't know if you all are aware that he wrote a poem called We Shall Not Allow War. Which prime minister, coming from the background that he did, would put down into a poem a line that reads very briefly like this: India and Pakistan are neighbors, we have to live together. Love or battle, what we offer is what we earn. We fought 3 wars, we paid the price. Russian bombs or American, the blood spilt is the same. We have suffered. We'll spare our children this fate. We shall not allow war.
He also had, but of course there were other poems also, Pavan, there was a famous poem. He was preaching in many manner. There were other poems also. There was another poem where, in a very far-sighted manner, he said that he was, in a poem to Pakistan, he said, when you set out to try and burn your neighbor's house down, be careful that fire can spread to your own. And many people will say that's exactly what happened to Pakistan going forward. So yes, a number of comments. I just want to, if you look at the number of ups and downs that there were, he had difficult moments. It's not that he didn't. When he was a prime minister, also there were difficult moments earlier. As the leader of the BJP, confronted many challenges. The Babri Masjid, for example, at a time when it often seemed as he was at odds with his own party. So let's just play for you some of the various interviews that we did with Prannoy Roy, for example, Atal Bihari Vajpayee speaking about the Babri demolition. This is what he had to say at that time.
John 6 was very unfortunate. It should not have happened. We tried to prevent it, but we did not succeed. We are sorry for that.
Why did you not succeed? What happened?
Because a section of car sevaks, they went out of control. And they did something which was not to be done. A clear assurance was given that no damage will be allowed to be caused to the disputed structure. And that assurance was not kept up. That's why we are sorry.